Hey guys, welcome to the latest edition of the Gray Students Podcast. I'm joined here by Scott.
Hey everyone, how are you?
And Isaac.
What is up, people?
And my name is Bryan, and we are going to take some time today and do some things that we've talked about in previous episodes. Isaac is a former Gray student. He is currently a college student. I'll let him tell you a little bit about himself here in a minute, but we just want to take a second and thank you for listening, tuning in today. We got some exciting things coming up on the horizon, and so we're excited to have Isaac with us here today. We only got a couple more days with him. So, what do you got? What do you got coming up?
So as Bryan said, I'm a college student. I go to Cedarville University in Ohio, and I play golf out there. Which is one of the reasons for me attending that school is I wanted to play golf in college, and that had that option for me. It's a Christian university. Love that about it. I'm studying youth ministry with a with a minor, hopefully in either communication or business. I'm looking into like organizational leadership because you can use leadership skills anywhere. Wherever you find yourself. So yeah, I go back in 2 days.
Couple days, man.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I know.
Like summer coming to an end.
It literally went by like so fast. And people keep telling me that as I get older, time will go faster.
It's so true.
I don't believe them.
You're like it's already
yeah,
flying.
Like seriously, it just disappears. Like so I'm going into my second year, sophomore year. So my freshman year went incredibly quick. You go there, orientation, it flies by, you're new, everything's new. And then it's Christmas, and then you get back and you're like, oh, I've done this before. And then all of a sudden it's finals and you're home for summer, and then summer's
like,
gone.
Wow. Yeah.
It's wild. It's a wild ride. I love it out there. I love the people. So yeah. But I'm stoked to be back. I'm going to be an RA this year.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about what's an RA do. What does that mean?
Okay. I don't even know what it stands for.
Is that like resident assistant?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking RD, resident director, so I would be his like assistant.
Minion.
Right. Yeah. Like a little groupie.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
So what I'll be doing, what an RA does is I don't want to say like I'm in charge of the hall, but if guys. So I live in a dorm. We'll start there, and it's like an apartment building, where the RD, the resident director, is like the main dude in the building. He lives, on the bottom floor, and he's the dude you go with all the questions. Like he's the head of the hall of the dorm basically, and then within the dorm there are different like sections, different halls. So I'm in 3 West, third floor, West section. So I have probably about 18 to 20-something guys that'll be living in my hall. And if they have any questions or concerns or problems, like usually I'll be the guy they come to.
Gotcha.
I'll be discipling some dudes in that hall. That's part of the job at Cedarville for RAs. They direct us, and we're supposed to be what's the word I'm looking for?
Kind of coming alongside those guides and
we're supposed to be
like mentors.
Well, yes. It doesn't matter. Yeah. I'm supposed to disciple guys.
We'll
in the
roll
hall.
with that.
Yeah, that's good. Mentors. But anyway, so yeah,
that's cool.
I kind of like I'm gonna lead those guys. Be the guy they go to for certain things. But yeah,
it's a pretty cool opportunity.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah. Is that what you're looking forward to most this year, you think? We've talked a little bit about, the whole RA thing. Kind of what's your perspective going into this year?
Okay. I am stoked for being an RA because, there are some benefits to it. Obviously, I'll get a little money, so they'll help me out with that and things. Things like that. But the thing I'm excited for most about the RA position itself is just forming relationships with the guys, and being able to grow in those and see how they progress throughout the year. and just, help them along their journey, help them, find their groove, and just try and make it like the best year possible for them. Because one of the things that we constantly talk about is like serving through your leadership role and servant leadership and things like that. And I'm just pumped to try and refine my skills because I think it's going to be challenging for me.
Absolutely.
Obviously. So I'm excited to how it'll sharpen me, make me a better person, a better discipler, a better disciple, but also just growing alongside those dudes. I'm just pumped for the relationships we'll form and the bonds that we'll have coming out of it. So
Now, are these guys that you know already, or are they some new guys too?
Both. The answer is yes to both questions. So a lot of the guys in my hall last year, I actually stayed in 3 West my freshman year, and our RA from last year got married, so he's going to married housing. I was in his wedding just a few weeks ago, so I am getting the opportunity to take that position. But a lot of the guys in the hall are staying, so we have the same core group of guys. Probably, if there's 20 dudes, I'd say probably 12 to 14 of them are the same. Yeah. I know I'm getting a roommate that's a freshman, so that'll be new. Because at Cedarville, RAs have roommates, which you don't find a lot of places.
No.
So that's something, but I'm excited. He's a freshman coming in. His name's Joey. Joey, if you ever end up listening to this, dude, I'm pumped. All right, I'm stoked for the year.
We need to make sure Joey sees this.
Yeah, Joey.
We need to add Joey.
Yeah, for sure. Joey Hendricks. So anyway, there'll be some new guys, and then obviously an old group of guys that we'll be familiar with. So
Well, that's huge when it comes to relationships too. When you're trying to form that, you've already got a little bit of a foundation, a little bit of a base there.
For sure. And actually, I wasn't originally supposed to be the RA for this hall. I wasn't supposed to be an RA at all. So we went through.
So you thought.
Or so I thought. Yeah, God had different plans, And so you go through the interview process, and you do a group interview, you do an individual interview, and through this whole thing, I thought I did a fine job. But it's really rare to find a sophomore being an RA because Cedarville, you have any guys from all sorts of years staying in your hall. So last year we had normally seniors will move either to the townhouses or off campus. So you don't find that usually unless they're an RA. But we had juniors, sophomores, and freshmen staying. So for a sophomore to be an RA, you'll find guys who are actually older than me that I'll probably be leading the
those
hall,
guys.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of rare to find that. So going into that, I knew that that piece of information. So I wasn't really expecting much from the whole process. I just wanted to get involved and see what happened. And I actually got turned down originally. And they had, because there was a great group of guys that were set to be RAs that I went through the group interview with for our dorm. It's then come this summer, I actually hadn't even picked a roommate or a dorm or a room yet, so I was I didn't know what I was doing. And my old RA texted me and was I know something that you don't that will make you smile. And I was that's really weird, but I'm excited to find out.
Questionable.
Yeah, right. So, because he's a funky dude, so you never know what that could have been. And he's just call me when you find out, because you'll know what I'm talking about. And then the next day, my RD texted me and was hey, do you have a minute to call? And as soon as he texted me, I was all right, I think I know what this is about. And I called him back and I was yeah, what's up? And he was one of the dudes apparently who was supposed to be the RA in a hall 2 floors below us isn't going to be the RA anymore. So what ended up happening is the guy who was originally scheduled to be the RA in my hall, 3 West, is going to get moved to there. And then there was an opening in 3 West, and he, the RD, saw it fit to ask me because I had stayed in that hall. I knew the guys, and I guess he thought I did a good enough job to get the spot. So he asked me, and that took care of my room situation as well that I hadn't decided through the middle summer. So yeah, then I got the spot, and I'm pumped for it.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And I mean that it's interesting because that plays into a lot of what we discuss as far as the way God orchestrates things, the way God controls things. So here you are poised on the edge of your sophomore year, ready to pour into 18, 20 guys in a way that you weren't thinking even that you had the opportunity to, but God the whole way along is prepping you for that and orchestrating that, and opening that door, which is awesome.
Yeah.
I'm super pumped for you as well. You and I have talked a lot about discipleship and relational investment and the value of that, and so to be able to see you kind of fleshing that out in that setting is awesome. Scott, one of the things you and I have talked about on this podcast, wanting to do with this podcast, is bringing on current students and former students, and we want to do leaders and parents, and I mean the whole gamut, just to get the wide range of perspectives. So tell us a little bit about kind of your experience growing up in the church. Obviously, I've known you for about 3 years. Yeah. So I kind of got the tail end of your experience in student ministry.
Sure.
We went to Guatemala together in 2015, which was huge.
Yeah.
But tell us a little bit about your experience growing up in church, kind of your takeaways, and then how that meshes with where you're at now.
Okay. So for those of you who don't know me or my family, we do attend Grace, and I've always been involved in the church. Like my entire family is Christian, professing believers, which is awesome. I love the environment that I grew up in. My parents, my 2 older brothers, Jared and Eli. So it was great. We originally attended Frankstown Park Missionary Church when we were younger. That's where my mom grew up. Super small church along Brush Mountain. And the reason we made the move, I couldn't even tell you like how old I was when we made the move to Grace. It was a while ago. But it was because Frankstown Park didn't really have a great like youth program, because there wasn't a lot of people attending it. It was a pretty small, for the most part, an older congregation. And so there weren't a lot of kids, and the youth group wasn't huge. So my parents saw it fit to look elsewhere for, better opportunities, as, my 2 older brothers were moving into like the high school age where they would, need to be poured into a little bit. And so, boy, that was probably 12 years ago. Okay. I would think. 10 or 12. And so since then we've been at Grace. And yeah, I mean, ever since I can remember, when I was younger, I mean, my mom we'd always read like Christmas devos around Christmas time, like the story of like Bartholomew's journey.
Yeah.
And I've just been constantly poured into.
That's awesome.
From my parents. We've constantly attended church, youth group. Never got much into Awanas when we attended Grace, but other than that, I mean, like, it's just been one of those staples. And from that, and I've talked to a lot of people who've been in similar situations. I don't want to say my faith was stagnant, because I got saved at an early age. I actually got saved when I was at Frankstown Park, so I was probably 6. And I don't remember the exact date, but it was with my grandmother, and we're just in the pew, and they made the call, like, oh, you want to accept Jesus Christ as your personal Savior? And then we all prayed the prayer, and I was like, Grandma, I want to do this. She was like, okay. Right? Yeah. I mean, I don't know if anybody else had the experience, but like after that, I think I accepted him like 85 more times.
We talked a little bit about that
like
too.
And actually, a book that is great about that, I'm going to plug it real quick, Stop Asking Jesus Into Your Heart.
Yep. Yeah. Yep.
Love that book.
J.D. Greer. It's great.
I think everybody should read that. So if you're listening, you haven't read it, look it up. Pretty small, easy read.
Yeah, it's a pretty easy read.
Yeah. But great stuff. It really unpacks, the whole church culture about the sinner's prayer. Which was really good for me to read, because at that point I was still like, I mean, I thought I had a grasp on it a little bit. This was just a couple years ago when I read that, because you actually introduced it to me, Pastor Bryan, so my entire life I grew up and obviously I didn't even understand that like you pray that you know, I didn't understand the concept of
what conversion is.
Right.
Yeah.
And like I should have, but like, and then at the same point, like, I think it's hard when you're young to fully know what it means to live out your faith, just because
Absolutely.
you're so protected, especially like growing up in a great family. Like I think that even might have protected me more from things, because my family life was great. Like I seemed to have like no problems. I always did well in school. Like life was good. So I think it kind of shielded me from like having to act on my faith almost.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't forced into opportunities where I had to. And so up until honestly probably when we went to Guatemala, I hadn't really done anything. I hadn't been like super involved outside of church as far as like being mission minded, being like relationally, you know, like discipling others minded. So yeah, and then as I grew, I went to Guatemala. I met you. Kind of progressed in my last couple of years in the youth, and was able to lead there a little bit, and really, I don't know, just start learning more. And then obviously going to college was huge for me, because the environment I'm in out there, obviously college is new for anybody, and to be new in that environment, it was honestly like immediately like home. And the people are amazing, but also I was getting the right like teaching, because right away they at Cedarville they focus on discipleship. They focus on, you know, being relational. The motto is for the word of God and the testimony of Jesus Christ. Like they pound the right things into you, I guess.
Yeah.
And so that's been huge. They love missions. You know, Dr. White, the president, he encourages everybody. He says, like, when you walk across the stage in 4 years, he says this when you first come in, he's like, I'm going to ask you whether you went on a mission trip while you're at Cedarville, and the answer better be yes, or I'm not going to hand you your diploma. And so, yeah, he says that.
Here's the caveat.
Yeah, they're huge on mission. So it's just been, like, really great to be in that environment. I obviously have been led towards youth ministry as a major. I took a discipleship class, which was huge, by far my favorite class at Cedarville. I learned so much in there. So yeah, it's been awesome. And I like, honestly, every single day, I'm learning more. I'm like, I would still say I'm subpar in my Bible reading, in my prayer life. I mean, I'm subpar in a lot, honestly. Like I relate to Paul a lot when he says chief of sinners. I'm like, yeah, yo, dude, you're like
Word up.
preaching to the choir, right? Like that's all me. Like I like read that and I'm like, okay, Paul, like, at least I can relate to him. But yeah, but it's great. I mean, it's just and to see how God worked it all. I mean, I don't want to go into my whole Naval Academy like decline and then to Cedarville story. That might take a while.
That's another podcast.
It's another podcast. If you see me outside the podcast, ask me about it. I will tell you. And that was just, it was a really wild ride of how I ended up at Cedarville, you know, where God has led me now to youth ministry, to being an RA, to being here. So it's been awesome. Yeah.
So let me ask you this. What would you say, you know, you're heading into your sophomore year at Cedarville. Mm-hmm. You know, like you said, pretty amazing upbringing as far as family that God put you in, shaping and forming. So looking back, what would you say is your biggest takeaway from student ministry? Like, and where I'm going with this is like where you are now. If you could say something to those high school students, those
or say
junior high
something to
students.
myself. You know,
Yeah,
like,
say
okay.
something like,
Gotcha.
So like, what was your biggest takeaway, and then how has that shaped kind of what you would say to them? And
Wow.
in fact, factor into that, you know, like first year at Cedarville, and like maybe even like coming out what you wish you would have known. You know what I mean? Because like one of the things that we want to get better at is figuring out what we're not doing well. It's one of the reasons we want to do this podcast, to just get on people's radar in a way that we're not. And so, having been part of student ministry at Grace, what would your biggest takeaway be? And then kind of roll with that.
I don't know we're going to be this hard hitting, I wasn't, but
hey, we only got like 20 minutes, so we got to get into
pack it in. Biggest takeaway, what would I tell them? Are those two different questions, or are they like the same question?
It depends on how you want to answer it. I would see them as two different questions.
Okay. Boy, biggest takeaway. I don't know. I think one of the things, like, ever since I met you, like, and was, kind of did life with you in student ministry, like you kind of like teaching over us, you really like instilled a mission mindset. And also I constantly am reminded of you teaching on like, we are the church, the hands and feet. That was a big thing in Guatemala. I don't know, like, hashtag.
Yeah, hashtag.
Throw it out, right? That was huge. But being the hands and feet, like being the church and what that looks like. And so that, I would say, that would be my answer to both. As far as biggest takeaway, like what I learned the most, because I still come back to that all the time. But also looking back, I would say, to students now or to myself then, not only should you learn more about that and what it looks like, but do it. Because I think so often, as I pointed out earlier, like I was protected growing up a little bit, so I wasn't like forced into like a ministry context where I had to, where my faith was tested, or where I had to, share the gospel with somebody. And like even just being at Cedarville, like we drove to Dayton one day, and I saw there was a guy outside the coffee shop who was homeless, and like it was just on my heart. I was like there's a dollar store right there, like I can definitely go get him a couple bucks worth of food and walk over, and I met him. His name was Greg. He was super cool. He showed me magic tricks, but like I wouldn't have done that in high school. I wouldn't have been walking like through the streets of Altoona and been like, oh, there's a homeless guy, let me run to Dollar General and get him something. I would have driven right by and been like, I would have looked, right? Yeah. But it's just like do something about it, right? So like be the hands and feet, like we hear it all the time, like we are the church and things like that, and like a mission mindset. But like something I would like if I went back to Isaac in 10th grade, 11th grade, like I would say, dude, like go do something. Not it doesn't have to be huge. Like I wouldn't encourage myself to just like, dive the whole in, like go start like preaching the gospel in like a public park or something. But yeah, like I don't know. Just be more involved in the community, like take church outside of the church, pretty much.
Yeah.
Because,
leave the building.
Right. Leave the building. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Because I think growing up, I had in my own mind, there was a huge emphasis on the building, and I was like, oh, we're going to church. Like that's the thing. Like we're going to church. Like put your church clothes on, right?
right.
Get all dressed up. We're going to church. Yeah. So leave. I love that. Leave the building. We can make shirts of that, I think.
We should.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I think so.
Merch.
Yeah. Plug the merch. Yeah, that's right.
What's your response to that?
I think that's great. A question that I would have for you though is this. So now that when you talked about being the hands and feet, what was the first thing, like when that really clicked in your mind? How did that change your perspective on how you're living your life? Because Bryan and I, we kind of talked about this. Like when things just immediately click, you can sometimes have like a sense of shame. And be like, I've been doing this wrong.
No, that's exactly it. Well, I say like I'd look back like in high school, like if I walked past a homeless man, like I'd have been like, like whatever. Yeah. But like you're exactly right. Because it is, and there were many times that like now I look back at myself in high school, and I don't want to say I have a sense of shame, but like I look and I'm like, dang, dude, like you missed one there. Like my senior year in high school, I was, wading into it a little bit. Like we had a couple of buddies of mine. We had a small like prayer group in the morning, like at morning breakfast, while we were waiting for the bell to ring to go to class. And that was just something small that like I got with a couple dudes, and I was like, yo, like let's do this thing. So that would be one aspect that I think I was kind of going in the right direction. But now that it has, and I wouldn't even say I totally like nail it 100% all the time, because
nobody does.
No, nobody does. You're exactly right. But yeah, more it's just like with a couple of the classes I've taken at Cedarville, and kind of developing that concept more in my mind and in my heart and with other people, I'd say I'm more, it's easier for me now to like look at somebody and really like, I don't know if this can make any sense, but like see the person, like, like so often like we see an environment or we see like a situation,
circumstances,
right. But like now, I find myself more like seeing past that, like seeing a person, and when I do that, when I kind of take other things out of the equation, like it kind of break it down, it simplifies it. So when it's a person, like I love to talk, so it's easier for me now to say, you asked about like how it's changed my life. It's easier. I find myself more now just like having conversations, just like doing that relational aspect, delving into that easier than in high school or earlier in life when I didn't necessarily, live out this hands and feet thing. Like now I can see somebody, I can say like, oh, hey, what's up? Like, and it's that easy, really. It's all about just starting a conversation.
And now that you're talking to people more, have you found or experienced any backlash or resistance to being the hands and feet? And how do you respond to that?
Yeah, I mean, some people just say no, like, and they don't actually just say no, but like some people just turn it off, avoid the conversation or turn it a different direction. And like, I don't necessarily go straight at them with, like Bible thumper mentality where you're just like throwing verses.
Smart. That's good.
Right. Yeah. That is also one thing I learned with, relational, like little relationships. Because that's the best way to get to the gospel, gospel oriented conversations is through like just a regular relationship. But yeah. So actually that question, when I tend to focus more on just a relationship, it's easier to get to those conversations because I don't go with the Bible thumper mentality.
Right.
Because I start with a, hey, what's up? Instead of, hey, John 3:16. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when because I went to lunch with this friend from high school who, not a believer, but a really good friend of mine. And we, had this weird relationship in high school, like as friends. And we went to lunch this summer, and it was really, I went into it with this mentality of man, because I've shared some things with her in the past. I talked through some had some good conversations, some gospel conversations. But I went into it with mentality of like, if I get to those, great, but like, we're just going in as friends. Like, I just want to find out how her school year was. I want to find out how her summer's been. And we went in, and we eventually got to the point where, she made a statement, and it was about like happiness and like where she's trying to find it. And it was just like, I kind of just slid in there, and I was like,
there it is.
Yeah, and it was. And then the rest of the conversation was just so like, it was just good.
Yeah.
It was good. It went into a gospel conversation I was able to share, the fault in everybody in where we try and find satisfaction, and where we try and, fill ourselves up. I was able to kind of give her a demonstration of, like, examples of that, and it was just really great. But yeah, so I find it less and less now that I go into a situation and somebody immediately flips the switch off, just because I'm not starting with,
something that's going to cause me to flip the switch
right.
off.
You're exactly right. Yeah.
I think like in the background is intentionality, but spirit-led intentionality.
Yeah.
Like you gotta. We've talked some, and I mean, that's something I'm still unpacking in my own heart, because I grew up in a setting that was like like J.D. Greer says, the Trinity was the Father, Son, and the Holy Scriptures. Like the Holy Spirit was like, what? We have the Spirit, so I'm still unpacking that, but this idea that the Spirit's going to direct that conversation the way He wants it to go. We just have to be willing to go into it with that. I want to care about this person in such a way that I care about this person, and ultimately that means gospel conversation, but maybe it takes 5 conversations to get there too.
Yeah. And I think it's extremely encouraging for people who maybe are from the same background or even not the same background, but are in college or in high school situations where they say, you know what, I have unsaved friends that I really do care about, but I'm concerned that, I might lose that friendship, or it might be affected by me sharing the gospel with them. So it's encouraging to hear of ways that you're able to, speak truth to them and love them without, like you said, just bashing them with John 3:16.
Right, Bible thumping.
And because that's kind of how we're stereotyped, right? But
For sure.
but kind of accurately,
There's a reason
to some
that
extent.
stereotype exists.
Yeah. So it's great. It's great to see that.
Yeah. Well, we're super excited for where you're at and the direction that you're heading. I mean, I'm pumped that you're going to be an RA. You can air this to your guys in your hall, and you can shout out, Isaac's awesome. Lean in with this dude.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
The Spirit's going to do some stuff through you, which I'm super excited about. Any last words before we sign off?
No, I mean, not really.
Be the church.
Be the church, yeah. Just do it. As I saw on a Nike shirt once. Once, maybe twice. But yeah, just do it.
Belief always leads to action, and we talk about that a lot.
Yeah.
Belief always leads to action. That's right. Is it true belief?
It doesn't result in action. It wasn't belief.
That's exactly right.
Maybe knowledge, but not belief.
Yeah.
So
True.
And
be the church.
We'd love to have you back on, and catch up with you maybe around Christmas time when you're
That'd be
back.
sweet.
Christmas break,
Have a
fall
couple of
break.
days.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, I'm all about it.
Sounds good.
Sweet. Well, thanks for joining us. Thanks for tuning in with us for another edition of the Grace Students Podcast, and we'll see you next time.